Hello and welcome to the show where we're bringing you a new season of art and exhibitions. We're starting with self-portraits, which have consistently featured in the many art movements over the centuries, and our appetite for representing ourselves is just as strong today in the form of the selfie. In Sweden, a new museum's now a destination for fans of the snaps. The Youseum has dozens of rooms and backgrounds specifically designed for influencers to photograph themselves in. A true temple to me, myself and I. Laurent Berthecheux has the story.
A dream setting for aspiring influencers looking to take the perfect profile picture. In Stockholm's Youseum, there is no art on display. Instead, rooms full of props and neon lights serve as backgrounds for selfies and social media posts.
We're in our first room, the emoji room. So here you can take cool pictures, create cool content for like your Instagram or your Facebook, or if you do TikToks, it's the perfect place to do TikToks.
The interactive museum attempts to blur the lines between artists and visitors by making them part of the exhibit. From the vibrant colors to the catchy music, everything here has been carefully designed with social media in mind, and it's already a hit with Swedish teenagers.
Thank you. You have the lightning, you have the TikTok music, you have snacks, you have all the things we like.
I think it's very cool, and I get a positive vibe from it, and I think you can get very good pictures here, and yeah, I like it.
The concept may be harder to take in for older generations, wary of the narcissism and self-indulgence promoted by social media and of their effects on the mental health of teenagers. But others were trying to embrace these new forms of expression.
I think that's the way the world is now, and I think in terms of setting a site for taking wild photos, it's kind of good.
With 2 locations in the Netherlands, one in Sweden, and another one set to open in Germany, Youseum looks well on its way to develop into a global brand, even if some may balk at the €30 admission fee to enter this giant photo booth.
Now to an exhibition that shifts the sensory focus from sight to touch. It is in fact a rare chance to get your hands on precious artworks, as visitors are encouraged to discover the pieces by touching them. And to make sure there are no distractions, they're blindfolded while they're in the Fine Arts Museum of Rouen. That's where the show's being held. Claire Rush and our partners at France 3 tell us more.
Using touch to view things differently. Curious visitors tried to determine the material of different works at this free exhibition in Rouen. Being able to freely handle the artwork provides a new kind of museum experience.
Touching things is a longer-lasting experience, but it activates senses that we normally never use at museums. It also encourages us to use our imagination, which we use less of as we get older.
Can you tell what the expression is?
They're smiling with their teeth and their mouth is open.
Visitors are surprised to see what the works really look like.
I needed a little more time in order to visualize and imagine it.
The traveling exhibition was first conceived by the Fabre Museum in Montpellier with the Louvre. It was created with input from blind people so as to better understand their experience. The pieces are duplicates. People are encouraged to explore the art in their own way.
Some people don't react openly at first, but then they start expressing themselves, which is fun to see. There are textures that feel strange, others that feel nice. You can also feel scared by not being able to see it.
You can interpret them the way your mind wants to see it. But once you see the reality, you might be disappointed.
For those who want to see more, the original works are on display in 5 different partner museums.
Next to a show here in Paris that transports visitors to Cameroon and plunges them into Bamiléké society. This immersive experience involves a number of royal artefacts from the region, as well as traditional ritual objects that are still in use today. It's also an opportunity for French and Cameroonian institutions to work together amid ongoing debate about returning African artworks to their countries of origin. Alison Sargent has this report by Julien Sauvager.
From calabashes to thrones to costumes of secret societies, these objects from traditional Bamiléké culture in Western Cameroon are not your typical museum artifacts. all are still regularly used in ceremonies. Pieces of living heritage that were lent to the Quai Branly Museum by some 50 chiefdoms, whose leaders came to check on them and admire the result.
I'm amazed. Of course, we suffered a bit from their absence, but we were promised they'd be taken good care of. I've just had proof that that was indeed the case. The objects travelled very well and arrived in good condition.
Some of the objects needed special preparation before the journey.
We had to do desacralization rituals to move them from their natural environment to France. Otherwise, some of these objects could have created problems when they arrived here. And when we do the ritual, it's to calm them, to allow them to move without worry.
The Immersive exhibition is a unique partnership between the French Museum, a Cameroonian diaspora association, and traditional Cameroonian chiefdoms. A new model for cultural exchange amid ongoing debate about colonial restitution.
You should know that even if there wasn't a debate about restitution, we'd still have done the show. But it's true the idea is original, and it's what we should be doing, letting objects go and come back. It's the approach we recommend, but it's also about sharing experience. It's really another way of doing things.
Another way of doing things that allows visitors to discover a culture that survived colonization and remains in perpetual evolution.
Now to a man who left his distinctive style all over Barcelona, Antoni Gaudí. The Catalan architect's known around the world for his masterwork, the Sagrada Familia Cathedral, an ever-evolving project that has come to symbolize the city. A new exhibition aims to explore his working methods and how Gaudí broke the mold for furniture design and architecture at the end of the 19th century. Residential buildings in the upmarket neighbourhood of Gracia bear his Art Nouveau-inspired hallmark, but his most famous building was designed to serve the city's working population, as the curator of this show explains.
The Sagrada Familia Basilica was built in a neighbourhood that is still relatively working class and is sometimes called a basilica of the poor or the cathedral of the poor. It is seen as almost a form of social work for the poorest. He has his great popularity, but at the same time, his confusing work is not always understood.
3,000 years of history and some of the most precious examples of Inca heritage are now on display here in Paris at the Palais de Chaillot. Machu Picchu and the Treasures of Peru is a chance to see important artefacts and learn more about that ancient civilization without scaling the 2,400-metre mountain ridge. The UNESCO World Heritage Site has been brought to life here in Paris thanks to the textiles, carvings, metalwork and ceremonial objects that tell the stories of the inhabitants of the Sacred Valley. That show runs until early September. Now finally, for a show involving monumental installations that are seemingly weightless. Pop Air is the title of a collection of inflatable objects on display at La Villette Cultural Centre here in Paris. That's a showcase that goes beyond the simple air balloon with luminous floating sculptures. The creations come courtesy of a group of international artists, and that's all been staged with input from the Balloon Museum in Rome. We'll leave you with a glimpse. Do remember you can get more arts and culture on our website. You can keep up with us on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
The insults don't bother Asher Yehiel Kessel. Here they've written he should be ashamed to leave his house. This rabbi helped publicize allegations of sexual abuse by Chaim Walder, a best-selling author and ultra-Orthodox leader. Walder then committed suicide.
A woman came to me in tears to tell me that she'd been abused by Chaim Walder. Then it was a young man raped by Chaim Walder, then a woman assaulted in her youth by Chaim Walder. So I heard so many stories in such a short time. I decided to go to talk to a journalist.
These experiences echo his own story.
I was very young. I was 10 or 11. I was what you would call a troubled kid. So a family friend offered to help my parents. He used this position and he sexually abused me many times. Every 2 weeks, sometimes every week, I couldn't come home from the yeshiva where I studied without him attacking me in my own house.
Several rabbis have praised Kassel for speaking out, something unimaginable just a few years ago. Shana Aronson and the NGO she leads work with victims in this community. She's surprised by the impact of the case.
We've definitely seen over the last month or so a big jump in people reaching out. Usually after a case is exposed in the media, we do get a lot more people reaching out, but usually it's more for people looking for therapy and for mental health resources. And this time, I think has been the first time where we saw such a big jump in people specifically wanting to report.
But victims still have to deal with the split between the secular and ultra-Orthodox worlds and the power wielded by ultra-Orthodox rabbis.
We'll have situations where a rabbi allegedly abused a constituent of his and where the police see it as, a situation where there was consent. The rabbi told her to do certain things with him or whatever, and she agreed. But they don't understand the dynamic and the power imbalance between a rabbi and his constituent, where if he tells her to do something, she doesn't feel like she has the option of saying no.
Challenges remain, but Aronson believes the community's learning it can no longer treat sexual abuse as just a family secret.
Your needs are changing, and so is France24.com. With articles, reports, the latest international news, all our programmes available on replay, together with live broadcasting 24/7. Intuitive, fast, and available in 4 languages. France24.com. Liberté, égalité, actualité.